Welcome back to the Hip Replacement Podcast. Today, we have a very important episode. We have summer coming up, and the big question is, you can't possibly have fun after a hip replacement, or can you? Can you really have fun after a hip replacement? Let me try to answer that question in today's episode. Today, we're going to talk about water slides. Yeah, water slides. You know, those things that water goes down and you get in the slide and you slide down on the water. I know for a lot of people that may seem completely foreign. Maybe it's been a long time since you've been on a water slide, but have no fear. After a hip replacement, a water slide is something that many of you would be able to do. And why are we talking about this now? Why water slides? Well, because summer's coming up, and that means warmer weather for most of the listeners out there. I know we have a lot of people on the other side of the globe that maybe they're going into their fall season or their winter season, but summer will be there eventually. And for most of our listeners, summer's coming up. Warmer weather and vacations are right around the corner. And so is having a lot of fun outside. I myself am about to go on a vacation. My kids will be out of school, and we usually end up somewhere warm with a few water slides. I don't know if we exactly plan it that way or we're predisposed to look for vacation destinations with water slides, but it usually happens that way. I believe that this is going to sound really weird, okay? But I believe that the quality of my life is somehow directly related to the number of water slides that I go on. I take the approach that I'm never too old to go on a water slide and have fun. Now, that sounds a little bit strange, but I think I'm sort of young at heart, even though I'm still relatively young, but I think I'm a lot younger than I actually am, if that makes any sense. And I'm going to keep doing that for as long as I possibly can. And water slides are a great way for me to do that and have fun. So on this vacation coming up, we're going to be gone for a few weeks. Are we going to go on water slides? Oh yeah, as many as possible. To me, they're fun. They're a great way to cool off in the heat. I make some great memories with my kids. And believe it or not, it's excellent exercise for a lot of different reasons. Are there dangers in water slides? For sure. Because water parks they're basically obstacle courses, but with a little planning and some common sense, you too can have a great day at the water park. And when I say water park, I don't only mean a place specifically set up that has water slides, but also consider if you're going to a resort. There's a lot of great indoor water parks if it's cool near you. There's a lot of great outdoor water parks. There's also the resorts that have their own. There's also cruise ships. It's like you can't even find a cruise ship now that doesn't have a water slide on it. Maybe some of the more higher end ones not designed for kids or families, maybe those don't have water slides. But for the most part, every cruise ship has a water slide on it, at least one. For me, I've always been the kid that I was always the first into the pool and the last one out. And I've always enjoyed being wet and just having a good time in the pool and on slides. And to me, the water slides are synonymous with summer and fun. I've gone down probably thousands of water slides, or I've probably gone down slides thousands of times, and I've only had a bad experience one time. Out of all the thousands of times, I'm usually smiling, screaming at the top of my lungs, having a great time, but there's only one time where I didn't have such a great time. And it happened just a few years ago. I was going down the slide. It was one where you stand there, you stand in a little booth, and the bottom drops out, and then you get dumped down. And in this particular slide, I got dumped down about 20 feet, and then it sort of flattened out, and then it kind of had this corkscrew around, and then you drop down into a pool after going around the corkscrew several times. But the problem with this particular slide is that there was not a lot of water going down the slide, and I was on my back, meaning on my butt, and without a lot of water going down, my shorts, there was a lot of friction between my shorts and the slide actually ripped a hole in the back of my shorts. So I got down to the bottom of the slide and dumped into the little pool, and I felt something kind of awkward. And that awkward feeling was my backside or my butt hanging out the bottom of the backside of my shorts. So I quickly went and grabbed a towel and wrapped myself up, and then let the resort where this was located, let them know, and they profusely apologized. And then they bought me a very expensive pair of new swim shorts. And then I was back on other slides later in the day. But that was the worst thing that happened to me on a water slide. And if that's the worst thing that happens on something that should be fun, I can live with that, because the fun times far outweigh those types of one-off occasions where it doesn't go exactly as planned. But today I want to talk about maybe 10 things that hip replacement patients should consider before going on water slides. All right? I know we're all in different phases, and some people may be relatively close to surgery. Maybe it was this today, maybe it was a few days ago, maybe it was a few weeks ago. But keep in mind that you have a long life ahead of you, and maybe a water slide a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, maybe that's exactly what you want to be doing. Maybe you have kids, maybe you have grandkids, maybe you have other people you could go enjoy a resort, a water park, a cruise with, and a water slide is something that you would want to do in the future. So don't despair if you're going through a hard time right now. There are plenty of great days ahead of you. And if you want, there's probably a lot of great days with water slides ahead of you. But 10 things that hip replacement patients should consider, all right? Number one, of course, basically a disclaimer, get cleared by your surgeon first. This is a very boring answer, but it's the right one. Water slides are not all the same. A slow family raft ride is very different from a high-speed body slide with a hard splashdown at the bottom. Your surgeon knows your implant, knows the surgical approach, knows the healing timeline and the restrictions and any risk factors. So be clear with your surgeon what you want to do if you're relatively close to surgery. And be clear about what types of movements, like maybe bending or twisting or turning or crossing the legs, that may happen. And talk to those with your surgeon. Say, hey, can I do this? Can I not? What do you recommend? But again, this should not be even anywhere in your mind if it's a few weeks, a few months after your surgery. This may only be possible years down the road. All right? So if you're too close to surgery, skip it for now. But definitely talk to your surgeon. All right? Number two. Here's another easy answer. Another thing to consider. Consider how long it's been since your surgery. The risk of dislocation may be the greatest in the first few months after surgery while the tissues are healing. while those muscles are moving back to where they need to go. And hopefully you're doing physical therapy that put those muscles back a little bit better than they would naturally. So someone who is 6 weeks out from surgery is in a very different situation than someone who is 10 months or 10 years out. And again, you shouldn't be anywhere near water until the incision is completely sealed. And for me, that was about 6 weeks after my surgery. 6 weeks after my surgery, the incision healed. But at that point, I wasn't thinking water slides. I was just going to get into the pool, to move around and do some therapy and start doing swimming, start doing some laps without using my legs at all. But I didn't go to a water park for years after my surgery. It simply wasn't worth the risk. It wasn't in my mind. But years after, I was comfortable with my hips and strength, so I wasn't concerned about dislocation or injuring my hips. Water slides were something I wanted to do, so I eventually went back. It was just some part of my active lifestyle. Number 3, watch the twisting and the awkward positions. Your position on the water slide definitely matters. You know, you may be on your back or on your stomach, on a mat, or in an inner tube. And getting down into the inner tube at the top of a slide may be the hardest part, because you have to lower yourself into the tube. I always found it easier to lay on my stomach on a mat than it was to get into an inner tube initially. But some water slides, they'll force you into weird positions. Maybe you have to cross your legs. Maybe you have to put your knees up. Maybe if your body has to be turned, or your hips are flexed, or your feet are bracing against the sides. Those movements may be risky for some people, especially if they still have hip precautions. Again, it has to do with the distance of time, the passage of time from your hip replacement surgery. A few months after surgery, don't go on a water slide. A few years, probably okay. Number 4, think about the landing. Think about the finish of the slide and not just the ride itself. The splashdown may be the biggest issue. Some slides end gently. Others drop you into a pool of water with force, and some spin you sideways or dump you into shallow water where your legs or hips or knees can hit the bottom unexpectedly. And that sudden impact or twisting on the exit may matter more than the slide itself. So just be aware, kind of take a look at the bottom of the slide. If you notice other adults, if they get down to the bottom of the slide and they're standing up and the water's only knee deep, maybe skip it. But if the water's waist deep, it's probably fine. Because I think that the shallow water seems more dangerous than slightly deeper water, say waist deep, because it adds more cushion at the bottom of the slide. Number 5, avoid the high speed, steep, or extreme slides. Not all water slides are created equal. Some are pretty high and steep. Some have you cross your legs. And I have been on plenty of these after hip replacement surgery. As a matter of fact, my older daughter, this is her favorite kind. So I can't let her just go on the slide and then make fun of me at the water park the rest of the day because I was too chicken to go on the slide. So I was going on anyway, but with that challenge, of course I'm going. And we're talking about steep speed slides. Like, you'll get in a little chamber and maybe the floor will just drop out and you'll go not almost straight down, but it's pretty steep. but you're in contact with the slide the whole way. It's not like you're being launched off the slide and then hitting the slide harder halfway down. But again, this is a slide where you're crossing your legs and you're going pretty fast, and then you're hitting a shallow pool of water at the bottom of the slide. But again, you're never leaving contact with the slide. Fine for me, years after surgery. I think it was, for that type of slide, it was probably 8-10 years after surgery for me, so I was not concerned at all. I never had any restrictions about crossing my legs either way. But after a hip replacement, things change. And low impact activities are generally preferred. And medium impact activities should be approached with caution. And maybe some people consider this type of slide, more of the extreme slides, to be high impact activities that maybe are discouraged. But each person's going to be a little bit different. I hate to say that. I hate to, use that cliche, but years after surgery where your hips are not going anywhere, it may be fun for you. Maybe you have no restriction on any slide. There's no water slide at any park that I've gone to that I looked at it and said, I should not go on that because of my hips. Number 6. This is not specifically related to the slide, but it has to do with your day around the slides, around the water park. And that is, be careful walking around the water park, because the slide may not be the only hazard, if it's a hazard at all. When you go to a water park, or when you go to a resort with a water park or some water slides, there usually is a lot of walking involved. And just make sure that your body is ready for all that walking. There could be wet stairs, slippery pavement, crowded walkways, running or rushing kids, and awkward climbs on a ladder to get out of the pool. All of these can pose a risk. A fall on some wet concrete is not exactly the victory lap anyone is looking for after getting a new hip. So just be careful moving around the water park. And when you're looking at the pools, maybe at the bottom of a water slide, look for pools with a zero entry, meaning there's no stairs or anything, and you just walk right in, like there's just like a slope. That's the easiest way in and out. Stairs would be the second easiest way out. And then a ladder would be the last or least preferred way out of a pool. Okay, so zero entry, then stairs, then a ladder if needed. Number 7, check the ride rules and body position requirements. A lot of times these slides will have a picture of what it looks like to ride the slide. Some slides require people to cross their arms, cross their legs, lie flat, sit upright, or ride in a tube, in an inner tube. And if the required position puts your hip in a place your surgeon told you to avoid, then skip it. There's probably other slides available. No water slide is worth turning your fun day into a doctor visit. Number 8. Start with the smallest or most mild option. There's no need to start with the big, gargantuan slide. If you're cleared to try it, don't start with the tallest, steepest, meanest slide available. Start with a slow, controlled slide. Lazy river, or maybe even a gentle raft ride, and see how your hip feels, how you handle the stairs to get up there, and how easy it is to get in and out of the water. Years ago, my wife and I went to this resort, and the resort had, and this is one of the reasons why we went to this particular resort, was that it had a series of pools, and the pools were all on different levels. and there were water slides going in from one pool into another pool as the pools went to lower and lower elevations. And they were very easy to get on, very easy to just get dumped into the lower pool, and then very easy at the bottom to get out with stairs. Those were gentle slides. Even though the place had a massive water slide and pool complex, there were no kids there. So it was almost as if my wife and several other adults had the whole place to ourselves, which was fantastic at the time. Now my kids would be all over a place like that. Number 9, pay attention to your strength, balance, and your confidence. Water slides require more than just sitting and sliding. You need to climb stairs. You need to sit down low. You need to get up from awkward positions sometimes. You need to absorb the water movement. As you go down the slide, sometimes you're pushed one way or the other way. So you need to be able to stabilize yourself. And you need to be able to walk safely after at the bottom of once you get out the bottom of the slide. If your strength, balance, or confidence is not there yet, that's valuable information for you. Getting up and down is really important. And to me, that's more important than the actual slide. So consider if you have the strength and the flexibility to get down to start and get up at the bottom of the slide. And note that this may have nothing to do with your hip replacement. So just make sure you can get up, you get yourself down and up. And you can actually practice this at home in your living room. If you can get to the floor and back up without a problem, you'll probably be fine at a water park. But if you're having problems getting down to the floor and back up, ask yourself if that's a problem because of your hip or just because your strength in general and your mobility in general is not where would be optimal or where you want it to be. And those are things that you can work on. Those are things that you can improve. So just consider, is this a hip restriction or my other body restriction? And you can work on all that stuff. And number 10, have an exit plan. Know how you'll get out of the pool at the bottom. Because where the water slide ends, is it easy out? Are you in just a few inches of water, or are you in a deeper pool? Are there stairs or handrails? How deep the water is, and whether you'll need help. Fatigue matters too. Somebody may feel great at 10 a.m. and wobbly by 3 p.m. And also consider the heat, the walking around, the dehydration, chasing kids around the water park. How much energy are you going to exert at the water park? Because it's certainly, I mentioned this before, it is a great exercise to be in the water park because you're burning calories, you're burning energy moving around, you're burning energy going upstairs, you're burning energy stabilizing yourself going down the slide, you're burning energy in the water, moving in the water. So all of these things can make you more tired at the end of the day. So if you're there for a long day, your body may feel way different late in the day than it did in the morning. So 10 simple things to consider. I'm not trying to scare anybody away from a water park. I'm trying to give you things to consider so that you can go to a water park. I'm not a water park spokesperson, but I think I would qualify. So can you go on water slides after a hip replacement? Probably. I hope you can if you want to. It all depends on how long it's been and where your strength is. So make sure it's been long enough after surgery. I suggest at least a year to give your muscles time to get stronger and more flexible. But just know that there may be limitations that have nothing to do with your hip. So just make sure you're strong enough and mobile enough to get on a slide and off the slide. And most of these places have different degrees of slides. Some are more difficult to ride. Some are medium difficulty to ride. Some of them are very easy to ride. After a hip replacement, the question is not just whether you can go on water slides. The better question is, how comfortable are you with that particular slide on that day with your current strength and recovery so far? Some things to consider. I do want to say this, and I'm going to cover this in a different episode because I think it's so important to all of us, because we all face the same issue. No matter what age you are when you get your hip replacement, no matter how far it's been since your hip replacement. And here it is. Don't let yourself get old. They say the number one killer of older people is age. There's a lot of things that we can do to help our health, to make us feel younger, to actually be stronger, more mobile, more flexible, and live a healthy, active lifestyle and fun lifestyle. You can still be strong, flexible, and have all the fun you want after a hip replacement. And that certainly includes water slides. I hope you have the opportunity to go enjoy the summer, go enjoy the warm weather, and get on a slide if you can. I hope this was helpful. Thanks so much for tuning into the Hip Replacement Podcast. And until next time, I wish you the best recovery possible. Take care.